This offense has gone 138 minutes without a touchdown, and they say that Bruce Arians is a quarterback whisperer. Well, he better be saying some sweet nothings into his ear because this 49ers defense is going to be coming after him.
All right, well, we're not going to whisper sweet nothings in Laura Oakman's ear, but we will check in with her down along the sideline. Hi, Laura.
Nothing wrong with a little sweetness. I'm always okay with that. Tom, Jim Harbaugh met with his team last night. The biggest message was, in a year full of distractions, thank you for sticking by me and by each other. He wasn't emotional, but Colin Kaepernick was, telling us, quote, he's been behind me from the start. He drafted me, made the decision to start me, and when I was falsely accused of sexual assault, he was the only one to publicly stand up for me. He's a great coach, but he's an even greater man. He's meant so much to my career and to my life. Tom?
Well, we certainly will be talking about this situation and how it came to be that a head coach in his first 3 years here with the 49ers takes a franchise to the NFC Championship game, won Super Bowl, and is finished. That one will bounce around, trickle into the end zone. That is a touchback. And so the 49ers, who won the toss, they defer to get the football until the second half. Will start on defense. And here comes Ryan Lindley. Spent the first 10 weeks of this season on the San Diego Chargers practice squad. He was originally a Cardinal. They brought him in mid-November. He has never thrown a touchdown pass in 225 career attempts. He'll try and change that here today. It hopes his team can win an NFC West title. And he'll come out throwing, and so far, so good. He finds Michael Floyd. Floyd had a monster game, and the Cardinals win over Arizona back in week 3. And, of course, Larry Fitzgerald, along with Floyd, pretty good duo.
Larry Fitzgerald is 1 touchdown away from being the 10th player in NFL history with 90-plus touchdowns and over 12,000 yards receiving. He's looking to have a big day today against the San Francisco 49ers defense.
That's another big story here today. Will Larry Fitzgerald be a Cardinal after this year? On 2nd down and 2, the give is to Stephon Taylor, and he has enough for a first down. 49ers, despite all their injuries, their defense ranks number 5 in the NFL.
And I know that you talked about John Harbaugh in the opening going someplace else, but let's face it, Justin Smith has been the face of this defensive line and in this 49ers defense. It's sad to say that this may be his last game in the NFL.
Yeah, there's speculation he might consider retirement. Fake it one way. Lindley looking down the field. Good throw there. And the catch made by the backup tight end, Darren Fells. He had 3 catches in a loss to Seattle. And that goes into 49ers territory.
Very nice play design right now by Bruce Arians in this defense. They get him out in the route, and you see right now Craig Dahl, who is in place as a starter, get eaten up by that play action, which allows that crossing route to get deep to stretch the field and get Fells in on the first down.
Another injury, and there have been so many of them for this 49ers team this year. Nick Moody, who is filling in for Chris Borland, who is filling in for Patrick Willis. And now Moody will leave. He's replaced by the one-time Packer and short-time Cardinal, Desmond Bishop. Taylor down to the 40-yard line. That'll be a gain of 5 on first down. Well, we talked about the injuries they've had all year, and we'll talk more about it throughout the day. But 3 more of them down today defensively for the 49ers. Cox, Brock, Reed, and throw in Ahmad Brooks with a thumb injury. On offense, Carlos Hyde and Stevie Johnson. Johnson's not had a big year, but he had a huge game, over 100 receiving yards in the loss to the Cardinals back in week 3. Taylor again, and once more, strong running, good blocking up front, and that's a first down to the 49er 35.
They just ran the same play back-to-back and have been getting nice chunks of yards. This is what they need to do. They have got to establish the ground game today to take some of the pressure off of Lindley, and also, this is not a defense that you want to be in 3rd and long situations against.
Bruce Arians, what a spectacular job he has done. Since taking over as Arizona's head coach a season ago, they won 10 games, did not reach the playoffs. A win today, and it's a franchise record 12. And there's a reception by Larry Fitzgerald on 1st and 10, and that'll be a gain of almost 9. That is 163 consecutive games with a reception for the future Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald.
Just a consummate pro. The way that he approaches the game week in and week out, it's no coincidence that he has this streak going. Every one of his players and teammates just raves about what a great guy he is to have, not only in the locker room, but in those meeting rooms.
Off the left side, and that is a first down for Kerwin Williams, first-year player out of Utah State, signed to the practice squad in mid-September. Played in just his 3rd career game nearly 2 months later and rushed for 100 yards in a big win over Kansas City. This has not been a good running team, the Cardinals. They're barely averaging over 3 yards per carry, lowest in the NFL. The 3rd fewest rushing yards per game at 80 after the injury to Andre Ellington. Now Marion Grice checks in. And wide open in the end zone, and there is the first career touchdown pass for Ryan Lindley. Finds Michael Floyd wide open, and what an impressive drive for the Arizona Cardinals.
What a start right now by the Arizona Cardinals. To see Floyd come stepping up, looking like he's going to seal at that back end. He gets Dante Johnson, who is in place for Parrish Cox, to step up, think that it's a run. He's able to sneak behind the back of that back coverage and score a nice touchdown. This is a great start for the Arizona Cardinals. Nice mix-in of play action and run, and a successful drive to score and start fast.
229 pass attempts for Ryan Lindley to find the end zone. What a start for the Cardinals.
Today's game is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com.
Take a look at this. Michael Floyd just flips it in the air. He knows who wants that football. You better believe in Ryan Lindley.
First touchdown of his NFL career, and it couldn't happen at a better time to start the drive fast for the Arizona Cardinals and to put a touchdown on the board in the opening drive.
Well, now, you know, they talk about Bruce Arians, maybe the quarterback whisperer. That guy's sitting right there. Tom Moore.
Tom Moore has forgotten more football than most people know.
That's exactly right. Trendon Holiday just brought in this week. And the one-time Broncos standout who's had a history of fumbling. That's why he's been bouncing around so much. Brings it out to the 23. Is this the last time we'll see this? Harbaugh and Colin Kaepernick.
Today's game is sponsored by Bud Light, who reminds fans to stay in the game and drink responsibly.
Arizona 7, San Francisco nothing. 49ers have the football for the first time. Starting at their own 22. Very heart and soul of the 49ers for a decade. Frank Gore coming off a spectacular game last week. So too did Colin Kaepernick as far as running the football. The 49ers rushed for a franchise record 355 yards. Both Gore and Kaepernick better than 150 each, and yet they blew the 28-7 halftime lead against San Diego for their 4th consecutive loss. Swing it out of the backfield, put it in the hands of Gore. Swarming Arizona defense wraps him up to the 23 and brings up 3rd down and long. No Larry Foote today. That's a big hit at linebacker for the Cardinals.
You just talked about him. Frank Gore is 38 yards away from rushing for his 8,000-yard season. And this may be the last time we see him in this 49ers uniform. So it's going to be key that he gets the ground game going. And I'm hoping that they are physical and the 49ers offensive hold downhill, trapping, playing smash mouth football like they did last week.
Kaepernick lost it down the middle. Catch made by Anquan Bolden. He's off to the races. The former Cardinal all the way to the end zone. There is a penalty flag down. back at the 35-yard line. It is a 76-yard touchdown, but will it stand? Long time Arizona Cardinals Anquan Boldin. One-time NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year in an Arizona uniform. I mean, they have the entire judiciary down there huddled at the 5-yard line to figure this one out.
There's no foul for pass interference on the play. The result of the play is a touchdown.
76-yard score.
If you look at this whole Arizona defense, they all step up into this. Nobody takes him across the middle. That's an easy route for Anquan Boldin, who has done this 1,000 times just to get behind those linebackers. Colin Kaepernick just to put it in stride. That's an easy touchdown for Anquan Boldin in this San Francisco 49ers offense. And that's the way that they needed to respond with a quick strike to get right back into this football game and put the pressure back on this Arizona offense.
Well, you saw that note. The 49ers have made a habit of getting off to good starts their first possession of the game. 7-7 in the opening quarter.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Nissan. Innovation that excites. By Pizza Hut. We're taking pizza where it's never been before. And by Microsoft Surface, the official tablet of the NFL.
Beautiful look at the Golden Gate Bridge connecting San Francisco with Marin County. Didn't take long. 3 plays on a 3rd down. 76-yard strike to Anquan Boldin. You know, it's amazing. We talked about Larry Fitzgerald, and you know, I referred to him as a future Hall of Famer, Larry Fitzgerald. It's interesting to note Anquan Boldin has more career receptions for more career receiving yards than Larry Fitzgerald. Yes, he is a couple of years older. Ted Ginn Jr., a former 49er, brings it up to the 23. Well, why not ring in the new year on Fox Sports 1? We bring you a marathon of Big East basketball. All teams in the conference, back-to-back, including a showdown. Butler against number 7 Villanova. Starts at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, goes all the way to midnight Eastern only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Second possession for the Cardinals. And Lindley coming out throwing. Under pressure. That's a ball that should have been caught by Robert Hughes. They've already used 4 different backs. Taylor, Williams, Price, and Hughes. And the first that is not completed for Ryan Lindley. The St. Louis Rams have taken a 3-0 lead over Seattle more than halfway through the first quarter. And of course, this one and that one for a divisional championship. Cardinals need to win. They need Seattle to lose. Hughes gets a chance on the ground, and he's up to the 28-yard line. Gain of 4 brings up 3rd down and 6.
I know that you always ask players, well, you know, during a game like this with the other games going on, do you have the scoreboard to watch? No, we're in tune to the game. That's BS. They're watching the game because they want to see what's going on every place else. And that's what you got to love about football in December in the last week. So much on the line, so much at stake. The most important thing you can do is take care of business yourself.
Well, calling 3rd down and 5. And it may depend on the spot. Ted Ginn Jr. right at the 33-yard line. They say 1st down.
Ted Ginn Jr. right inside here. You know, they're just going to run a little quick, the little crossing routes. Get it open. They're lucky. That was close to the sticks, but they gave him to the first down.
Saw 43 Craig Dahl in on the coverage and the tackle. He is replacing Eric Reed. Reed suffered a concussion in the first quarter against San Diego a week ago and did not return. Boy, that's right on the button. Once more, it is Darren Fells, the tight end, and that's another Cardinal first down. Let's get an update on what's happened. Another big one today. Detroit and Green Bay. How about it, Joe Platt?
Well, Tom, how about some special teams fireworks? Green Bay gets them this time. Micah Hyde, 55 yards, some nifty moves right about the 50-yard line, and he's gone. 7-0 Green Bay. They take the early lead. That one's for the NFC North, guys.
And certainly a playoff seeding. Well, there are a lot of moving parts in this NFC on this late Sunday. Looking down the field. And incomplete with an eye on John Brown. What a rookie year he has had. He had 2 touchdowns in that Week 3 win against San Francisco.
He's just going to run the fly, showing his speed and his athleticism. That ball's a little bit behind him. You see that he has to stop to turn back and slow down his route. But you got to give Bruce Arians credit because they're trying to air it out and they're taking shots down the field just like that one.
They have thrown the ball on every first down so far. Here, look at Brown, 44 catches. Anquan Bolden over 100 that rookie year. Back to the Cardinals. From behind Michael Floyd, but he spins around to get it, and that will move the chains again to the Niners' 40. Gain of 12.
Ryan Lindley is into rhythm into this football game, and he is throwing the ball very well. You see his timing is in sync with the wide receivers, and he has got a great grasp of this game plan that they've headed into this game with. And the thing that we really like to hear about, he said the communication between him and Bruce Arians is phenomenal. When they're going over their top 15 plays for this game, there's something that he doesn't like or he's not comfortable with, Bruce Arians will throw it out.
And it to Kerwin Williams. And he's down close to the 35. We talked about 4 quarterbacks that have been used. Carson Palmer was their guy, got hurt, shoulder week 1, in came Stanton, kept him rolling. Palmer came back, injured his knee against St. Louis. Stanton came in. He was injured against St. Louis. Lindley took over in that one in a win where the Cardinals did not score a touchdown. Then Lindley was a starter in Seattle last week, went 18 of 44. As the Seahawks blew that one open late. 8th play of the drive. Just short of a first down is Williams. Wrapped up by Big Tank Carradine.
Very nice combination block by Ted Larson and Lyle Sendeline up front to get to the second level to really let Williams stretch and press that ball upfield.
Third down and a yard. Taylor spins away from the initial hit and dives forward to pick up the first down. Third down has been a nightmare for both of these teams for a long time.
They really did a nice job up front making sure that they didn't give up any penetration. But look at Michael Floyd, 15, come in and set up that seal block to really make sure that they got that first down. It's going to take all 11 on the football field for this team to produce the numbers that they need to do in the run game.
Cardinals 2 of 2 on third down today. They're at about 27% over the last month and a half. Off target with an eye on Fitzgerald, second down. And they continue to throw the ball. They have every time on a first down play.
If you look at the ball control for Arizona right now, they're dominant with 9 minutes and 20 seconds of possession. And that's going to be key for them in this football game. If they keep their defense fresh and off the field, Todd Bowles is a guy who can dial up any type of exotic blitz and really make it uncomfortable for the opposing quarterback.
Second down and 10, and Williams will be dropped behind the line of scrimmage by Dan Skuta. Skuta's been a nice player for this 49er team over the last couple of years, starting in place of Aldon Smith.
Dan Skuta has done an unbelievable job of stepping up, but this is just a simple inside zone play that San Francisco beat at the point of attack. The one-on-ones, they took advantage of that and were able to get into the backfield and come up with a huge stop.
Saw Nick Moody originally breaking through the line of scrimmage, back on the field after being shaken up earlier. Third down and 17. Lindley being chased by Jared Eddy along with Aldon Smith. And the Cardinals will punt it away.
Nice protection up front by the Arizona Cardinals offense, but the back end of the San Francisco 49ers did a very nice job of making sure that Lindley had to go through each and every one of his progressions. Nothing was open. Get him to third down, no first down, and here we are punting.
Bruce Ellington standing back at the 10-yard line. And a fair catch at the 9. 3:28 to play in the opening quarter. 7-7 our score. Some of the faces of our spectacular crew that we've been with going all the way back to the preseason here with the NFL on Fox. We call them the Milwaukee Mafia. 3 members of our camera crew, Milwaukee and/or Green Bay residents. Helmet lost in the middle of all that. Looked like Joe Looney was the one who lost it. Jim Harbaugh. It has been reported again by College Football Insider on Fox, Bruce Feldman, who went to high school with Jim Harbaugh. When he finished his high school years after leaving Ann Arbor, Michigan, and finished down the road in Palo Alto, they knew one another, classmates together. He broke the story last night that says it's a done deal, that Jim Harbaugh is going to go and coach for his alma mater at Michigan. Kaepernick run out of bounds, appears to be short of the first down. I mean, you look back on what Harbaugh has done after leaving nearby Stanford. 3 years in a row prior to this year, they go to the NFC Championship game. Not even arguably, they're 2 or 3 plays away from winning a pair of Super Bowls. They did go to one where he lost to his brother John and the Baltimore Ravens. And when you look at his record of 48-22, and we talked to him about this for quite a while the other day, you just wonder, how did it all come to this? Third down, Kaepernick finds Bruce Miller, and that is a first down. He took a wicked hit at the 23, but is able to hang on to the football.
This is just what Colin Kaepernick is great at. He is able to extend this play, move the launch point, continue to keep his eyes downfield, and deliver it a rocket to Bruce Miller there for the first down.
So they spot the ball at the 25-yard line. Kaepernick perfect to start the game. Had the 76-yard touchdown.
Hey, yeah. 3-1. We got 3-1.
Hurry!
Out of the I formation, they'll give it to Gore. Spins out of a couple of tackles, and he crosses the 30 up to the 31-yard line. David, you've been around football your entire life. When you look at those numbers, 48 wins, 22 losses, 3 NFC Championship games, and a Super Bowl, and here you're having a chance with a win to finish at 500. You just wonder, how did it come to this?
Well, throughout the entire time, 11 years as a player, and as many years as I've been a fan of this game, you've never seen that happen with one adversity-plagued year, with injuries, with all the stuff that they've had to deal with on the field and off of the field. But no, you've never seen a head coach with this credentials and this amount of wins ever be in a position that he's in right now.
What an unbelievable run there by Kaepernick to get the first down. Let's check in L.A. with Joel Klatt.
All right, Tom, we go down to the NFC South. Win and you're in. You host a playoff game. The Carolinas off to a hot start. Cam Newton to Ed Dixon. 5 yards. 10-0 Panthers in that one. Tom, David, and Laura.
How about those Carolina Panthers? Trying to get back to the playoffs for a second straight year as the NFC South champion. Of course, that run by Kaepernick, reminiscent of what we saw a couple of years ago. Not as much this year.
Just his escapability, his athleticism just continues to show up more and more. But my whole thing with Kaepernick as a quarterback, just like RG3, I know that you want to develop some drop back system. You want to have them in their 3- and 5-step, positions and throwing the football downfield. But they're at their best when they're scrambling, when they're running nakeds and bootlegs, and they do change those launch points. That's when they're at their best, and the rest of the offense feeds off.
End of the opening quarter, America's game of the week. Cardinals and the Niners in a big one, tied at 7. Well, some of the numbers: time of possession, number of plays, dominated, first down, dominated by the Cardinals, but a 76-yard touchdown pass from Colin Kaepernick to the one-time Cardinal Anquan Bolden. Has this one a 7-7 affair to begin the second quarter. Niners started this drive from their own 10. What a catch by Bolden, and that's good enough for a first down on 3rd and 2. This guy has been a great player for a long time.
Very nice play design. They have him motioning like he's going to be a blocker. They let him run that submarine route right off of the offensive lineman's back to the backside. What a great catch by Anquan Bolden to make the one-hander and to get the first down.
Well, the Cardinals had that decision to make a number of years ago. Bolden had already been in the league a couple of seasons. They drafted Fitzgerald, felt like they couldn't afford them both. That one overthrown. They'll bring up 2nd down and 10. Been talking a lot, and we'll talk a lot more about Jim Harbaugh here today. And Laura, how about his relationship with Colin Kaepernick?
I think that's something that we were all a little surprised about when Colin talked to us in the meeting room about how much Jim meant to him. That's something that we all have assumed, but both of them keep their feelings very much to the vest. And I think that was something that we talked about early on, where Colin said just how much he means to him, not just on the field, but how much he's meant to his lifetime.
And I know you have more on Anquan Bolden as well, Laura. I want to get right back to you after this 2nd down and 10. Gore. And a flag comes in late as he tries to stretch his way for additional yardage close to the 30-yard line. But again, we wait.
Number 66 offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat 2nd down.
We were talking about Anquan Bolden, Laura, and I know you've gotten to know him well through the years.
Yes, and anyone who knows Anquan, but not just as a person on the field, we all saw what that catch sort of embodies with Anquan, how he gives it his all. That was something Harbaugh showed to the team last night and what could be his last meeting with the team. Wasn't talking about him. He put a highlight reel together of Anquan Bolden and Frank Gore. Wanted the team to see the two guys who we all know lay everything out on the field every time they're on, no matter the score, no matter the record.
Well, who could ever forget a number of years ago when Bolden had his jaw just shattered and fractured in a game against the New York Jets, and what, a week later he's back playing. I mean, you talk about toughness.
He brings it each and every Sunday. And you talk about players who are two completely different people when they're off the field and on the field. Anquan Bolden is one of them. If you meet him, he is one of the nicest, just great guys that you'll ever meet in your life. But on the football field, he is ferocious, and he plays tough and physical, and he has earned the type of credits and the compliments that he gets.
Crossing pattern for Michael Crabtree. Slipped a tackle and picked up additional yardage. And who knows, that might mean the difference between a legitimate field goal try, because they should have dropped him about 3, 4, 5 yards shy of where the tackle was actually made.
Nice play design again. They run Vernon Davis on the out. They slide Michael Crabtree underneath. The coverage wasn't able to slide over and make the adjustment. wasn't able to get the first down, but they put him in field goal position, and Phil Dawson, we've all seen him hit field goals from this point.
53-yard field goal try. Dawson has hit from 55 this year. Does he have enough? No, he does not. It is. It made it. It just did clear the upright. Take a look at this.
Today's game is sponsored by Chevrolet. Find new roads. By Pepsi. Pepsi Hype for Halftime, the official sponsor of the Pepsi Super Bowl 49 halftime show. And by Visa Checkout, the easier way to pay online. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Welcome back to San Francisco. Actually, we're down the road as they left the San Francisco city limits, if you will. Candlestick Park. This is their first year in Levi Stadium. Now, they have not been a good home team here this year. Already with 4 losses, trying to finish their home slate at 4 up and 4 down. Niners have the 10-7 lead. Line drive kick. Ted Ginn will take a knee. I tell you, it fooled everybody in the place. Look at this, over the crossbar and hits the padding. And Bruce Arians must have been listening to me. No good. What? Niners have their first lead, 10-7. Arizona with the football, starting this drive from its own 25. Williams looking for running room and just not any there. Week 17 continues tonight, a huge game. AFC North title on the line, and that means a home game for either the Bengals, who are already in the playoffs for the 5th time in the last 6 years. The Steelers are in for the first time in 3 years, and the winner in that one will be crowned divisional champion. There is a chance those two teams could play again next week in the opening round of the playoffs.
So would that be 3 times in the past 5?
Yeah. That one broken up on 2nd down, and all of a sudden things start to slow down for this Cardinals offense. Smith breaking that one up on the pass attempt to Darren Fells. Clearly the momentum has swung to the 49ers side. Cardinals trying to get it back. Seattle is trailing 3-0 to the Rams into the 2nd quarter.
This is the position that the Arizona Cardinals cannot be in, these 3rd and 8, 9, 10 plus, because this is where they've had their problems, and this is where they put all the pressure on this quarterback, Ryan Lindley.
Floyd and Fitzgerald at the top of the screen. Great protection. And right there is Brown for the first down up to the 45-yard line. Delivered right on the money by Ryan Lindley.
John Brown is just going to run the crossing route inside. I want to see Dante Johnson. He's just standing there. His eyes are back at Ryan Lindley, but he gets caught up and lets John Brown get behind him and have a huge conversion on that 3rd down.
Well, the 49ers are very thin at corner. They're without Parrish Cox today. They're without Tremaine Brock today. So Dante Johnson, the rookie out of North Carolina State, gets a start. Moody wrapping up Williams, and that'll be a gain, depending on the spot, of close to 4, maybe 3. Russell Wilson on the 10th play of a Seattle drive has just thrown an interception deep in St. Louis territory, and the Rams have the football, leading 3-0 with 9 minutes to go until halftime. Play action. And is that a catch over there by Michael Floyd? It is a reception by Floyd.
See Michael Floyd working up against Chris Culliver. Gets that outside release. Culliver gets eaten up and actually stops in the middle, and it doesn't give Craig Dahl enough time to get over and defend.
Well, Jim Harbaugh has thrown the challenge flag, and that's why the Cardinals were rushing to the line of scrimmage, try and snap that football. Saw Floyd go up, try to bring it in with one hand. The question is, did he have control?
Flag was thrown and recognized prior to the snap. San Francisco is challenging the ruling on the field of a completed catch. We'll review the play.
Did he get both feet in?
Today's game is sponsored by the United States Air Force. Aim high.
Still waiting a call on the field. It is ruled a catch by Michael Floyd. 27-yard gain it would be. That knee, Mike Pereira, appeared to come down inbounds.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. First down, Arizona. San Francisco will be charged with their first timeout.
And Mike Pereira, that's exactly what you said during the commercial break. You thought that this would not be overturned.
Yeah, it's close. I think he gets control with his left foot still on the ground, and then the right shin actually comes down on the ground with the knee being actually maybe out of bounds. Shin first, it's way too close to overturn. That's the key element.
Well, Mike Pereira, very, very busy. So many games with playoff implications, playoff seeding implications ongoing. Penalty flag down, 2 of them, as Lindley is sacked on first down back to the 32-yard line.
That's going to be on Robert Hughes. Nick Moody just on that blitz completely ran straight over him, and he tackled him down.
Holding, number 30 offense. Penalties decline. Result of the play, second down.
Nick Moody is a player that is known for his physicalness and his ability to hit. You're going to see him come right down the middle of the defense and the offense on a blitz. He just completely runs over Stephen Taylor on that one. Just tackled him down. That's an easy call for the officials.
Loss of 8. So second down and 18. 49ers with a 10-7 lead. Taylor leapfrogs one tackle, gets hit. Williams spins out of another rather, and he's down to the 27-yard line.
Nice play by Aaron Lynch there on the end. He doesn't let himself get pinned inside, and you always talk about on those stretch plays to the outside or the sweeps to the perimeter, you've got to edge the defense somewhere. Aaron Lynch made sure that he didn't get edged, was able to flow down the line of scrimmage and continue to keep that ball inside.
Well, they're well within field goal range for Kenton Zero's had a great year. Third down and 13. Oh boy, was it caught? And it is an interception made by Michael Wilhoit, and that is a bad mistake made by Ryan Lindley. His team within field goal range, and he turns it over. Only the second start this season, coming in back-to-back weeks for Cardinal quarterback Ryan Lindley, and on a third down and 13 throws the interceptions into the waiting arms of Michael Wilhoit. So no chance for what would have been a game-tying field goal try. Kaepernick out of shotgun. Tipped at the line of scrimmage and then through the hands of Bolden. Looked like Calais Campbell got a hand on it.
Great job by Michael Wilhoit. He knows that he's to the running back side. He has Williams out of the backfield, or Hughes, my mistake. He just does a very nice job of maintaining his inside leverage, jumping that ball and that route right when it's released, and coming up with a huge turnover for the 49ers defense.
36.
Give it to Frank Gore, and he's up to the 27-yard line. We mentioned the name Calais Campbell, and we talked about Anquan Bolden earlier today. Both have had outstanding seasons. Campbell's going to his first Pro Bowl. Bolden's been to 3 of them. But perhaps far more importantly, both are their respective teams' nominee for the Walter Payton Award this year. For all the work they do, not only on the football field, but in their respective communities. Third down and 8. Good protection. Michael Crabtree the catch. And he's close to midfield up to the 48. So Arizona's been burned twice now on third down and long.
Nice protection on the inside. You know, an exotic blitz look. They're going to twist and stem. Offensive line does a nice job of picking it all up. Crabtree running out. He's able to catch the ball, turn it back up inside, get a couple extra yards after the catch, and to continue to move this drive upfield.
Kaepernick slings it down the field and able to hang on to the ball is Quentin Patton. Last time he touched the football, he fumbled after that 20-yard run in overtime, which gave the Chargers the ball, and they won it with a field goal, and he nearly dropped this when he was so old.
They fake inside to Alphonso Smith. They run the boot. Once again, Colin Kaepernick showing his arm strength because he just threw that one on a rope downfield.
35-yard gain. 7 minutes to play in the opening half. Thor, nowhere to go. May have lost a yard.
Quentin Patton juggling this football, and it's a good thing that he caught that one because I think some of the Boo Birds would have been out if he would have dropped that one, especially after the key turnover he had in the last game that lost him the football game.
49ers have not been good inside the red zone this season. Kaepernick looking around, throws it away. Third down and 11 under pressure from Tommy Kelly, who's been a nice pickup, signed late in the preseason after he was released by New England. Had many good years on the east side of the Bay over with the Raiders.
39 tackles on the season. I think his biggest number is 15 quarterback hits. He has been able to get some pressure and been able to make it tough for opposing quarterbacks, and they felt all 300-plus pounds of Tommy Kelly, that's for sure.
The Rams have just gone ahead of Seattle 6-0. Marshawn Lynch fumbled for only the second time all year long, but the Seattle defense only surrenders the field goal. Kaepernick still on his feet, looking around, throws it away again. How was he able to avoid the sack? Marcus Bernard applying the pressure.
Not many quarterbacks in the NFL have this type of ability to move in the pocket, to continue to break tackles and arm tackles, keeps his eyes downfield, doesn't force anything, doesn't throw any bad balls that could possibly get tipped or picked off, and allows them to kick this field goal.
It'll be a 37-yard try for Boyd Dawson, who's only missed 6 all year long. Get from 53. And now tries to make it 2 out of 2. And he does. 13-7. It's Jim Harbaugh leaving this for Ann Arbor, Michigan. And every week, best in the business. Just delightful to be around all these guys. It's pretty interesting. I'm sure some of you saw Jeffrey Osborne there. Of course, he doubles as a legendary singer. He's been getting after it for years now. (13-7). Ted Ginn Jr. with a chance to bring it out. And he is spun down, flag down at the 25-yard line.
I think they're going to get Lorenzo Alexander, number 97, on the hold.
During the return, holding number 97.
How do you see that all the way up
penalty?
Because I never watched the ball. I watch to see where it's supposed to be going. I think that's one of the advantages of being a former offensive lineman. You never knew where the ball was because you couldn't see it. You just feel it.
Lindley started off red hot on that opening drive, capping it off with a touchdown pass to Floyd. Made the big mistake a moment ago, and Arizona was well within field goal range, which would have tied the game, through the interception. And Kaepernick off to a solid start. Through the air and on the ground, had a big 19-yard run. Lindley. And the ball is loose. It was intercepted, or was it? They're saying incomplete. And that should have been intercepted. It would have been the 4th of the year for Chris Cullen.
Ryan Lindley has got to do a better job of not eyeing down his receiver. He's looking at Larry Fitzgerald this entire time. He gets his eyes turned back, and he is eyeing him down, eyeing him down. When you do that, and you're the last person to see it, the defense has already seen him. They're going to jump that route. He's lucky they didn't get that interception, and he has another opportunity here.
Second down, and that one is right on target to Michael Floyd, and that is a first down. Give him a little bit of breathing room.
Michael Floyd had the big 27-yarder earlier that was under review, but in the last 3 weeks, he's had a catch for 45 yards, one for 49 yards, one for 32 yards, and that big one for 27. But that one right there was a very nice catch to extend the drive and get the first down after what could have been an interception in plus territory for the 49ers.
Across the middle, wide open. And the catch made by Rob Hausler, one of 3 tight ends. He gets pretty regular playing time. Hauser was a guy the last couple of years had 45 catches, 39 catches. That's only his 9th this season. It goes for 20 yards.
Aldon Smith barely touches him to reroute him, but Wilhoit comes on the blitz. Nobody comes over, and there's broken coverage on that. That's an easy catch.
Hauser in motion. They hand it to Williams. Cuts it back to the inside. Wrapped up by Dante Johnson and up to the 49-yard line. That's a good run on first down by Kerwin Williams.
Nice pull by the backside guard, Ted Larson, to lead through there, open it up. They're playing downhill smash mouth football. They're getting the power game going. They're not only just running inside zone and stretch it to the outside. This offensive line is doing a nice job right now.
Back to Williams, and that's good enough for a first down. And we go back to Los Angeles for a game break to Joel Klatt.
Tom, how about Carolina coming out swinging on the road, NFC South on the line, and Roman Harper, after 8 years in New Orleans, first year in Carolina, takes this interception, 31 yards for the touchdown. 17-3 Panthers. Tom, David, and Laura.
How about that start for the Panthers? Well, they pitch it to Williams, and somehow, some way, he looked buried after maybe a gain of a yard, and then just squirted right out of there and picks up 11.
And for Antoine Bethea to miss a tackle, he is one of the most consistent and reliable tacklers in the NFL. He's had 886 tackles and leads all defensive backs since '06 in tackles. So for him to not come up with that tackle and for Williams to fight through that and to get the extra yards, very nice job.
Hey, this Arizona team has so many incredible stories of guys that are given a chance because of injuries. And, you know, we talked about some of the 49ers injuries. I mean, the Cardinals have missed over 100 combined games. And we're talking about key guys. I mean, Carson Palmer made only 6 starts. Drew Stanton made 5 starts, played in 6 games. Ellington's their go-to guy out of the backfield. Dockett, they lost in the preseason. Washington booted, suspended. Abraham, a concussion, forced to call it quits. I mean, these were guys they were really counting on being a big part of this Cardinal team. And when you look at Kerwin Williams, as the blitz is coming, catch is made by Brown, and that is a first down. Run out of bounds at the 15-yard line. So all of a sudden, after getting away with one to begin this drive, Lindley's putting it together.
They blitz Will Hoyt and Moody, but they're not able to get home. The Cardinals give enough time in the protection for Ryan Lindley. And once again, he's able to hit John Brown on a key conversion here to continue to move upfield and put themselves in the red zone here. But most importantly, they've got to score a touchdown here. They can't settle for field goals in this game.
This will take us down to the 2-minute warning. A chance to win the NFC West. The Rams are leading Seattle 6-0. The Niners lead here 13-7. Well, you can follow your favorite team today through the playoffs all season long. Just go to iTunes.com/NFL. Cardinals knocking on the door. 1st and 10 at the 49er 15, trailing by 6. Grice is going to throw the ball. Boy, perhaps that's where you're getting a little bit too cute. You're trying to win a football game and get into a divisional championship, and you got running backs throwing passes.
They're going to pull left guard and left tackle Velt here and Larson. And the thing is, if they actually would have ran that ball, they would have gotten 7 to 8 yards because they had the defense outflanked. They had 2 pullers in front of them, and they would have continued to push forward to put themselves closer to the end zone. I know that you want to do different things and keep a defense off balance, but not right now, not when you're having a great drive like the one that you're having.
Put your quarterback in a 2nd down and 10 position here. And they lay it off to Grice. And he is thrown down by Carradine. And so that's a loss of 4. So on 1st down after this very impressive drive, you try a little trickery, a little razzle-dazzle. You go into 2nd down and 10, which now turns into 3rd down and what, 12? And this is what they're playing for today. Cowboys, division champs. Seattle has clinched a berth, but if Seattle loses and the Cardinals win today, Cardinals are division champs. They both win, Seattle wins it. They both lose, Seattle wins. Carolina in an all-or-nothing game, leading Atlanta, and the Lions trailing 7-0. Only a punt return for a touchdown by Micah Hyde, the scoring in that one against Detroit at Lambeau Field. And we understand Green Bay has just scored, so the Packers lead 14-0 there, trying to wrap up the divisional title. 3rd down and 12. Lindley throws to the end zone, and Floyd had to become defender there to keep Marcus Cromartie from intercepting that pass.
One-on-one, Floyd outside against Marcus Cromartie. Tries to run the little out and then up. Cromartie does a very nice job of maintaining inside leverage. Is pressing his body up against Floyd, using the boundary as an extra defender. Comes up with big defense right there.
All right, so a 36-yard field goal try for the rookie Catanzaro, and he has been money all year long. 29 of 33 for the rookie out of Clemson. 3-point game, minute 35 to go until halftime.
We are the last game, man. We don't know what's gonna happen, but what we do know is what we got to do today, man. Let's come out and play the 49er way, man. Offense, defense, and special teams, man. Play together, man. And whatever happens, happens. Let's go. Let's go. Compete on 3.
Words from Pro Bowl linebacker, and boy, he's been such a great player. 7 straight seasons to the Pro Bowl for Patrick Willis. Of course, injured early this season, and still right there behind his teammates. And we talked earlier, we'll be talking more throughout the afternoon about the plight of one Jim Harbaugh. Again, Fox college football insider Bruce Feldman broke the story last night, reporting that Jim Harbaugh will be introduced on Tuesday as the next head football coach at his alma mater, the University of Michigan. But there's been no official announcement or confirmation from anybody else on that. Brendan Holiday, a couple of yards from his own end zone, and Holiday a nice return up close to the 30.
Coming up on the Visa halftime, just one more playoff spot left as the Panthers and Falcons battle it out for the NFC South crown. The Ravens grab the last spot in the AFC, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock officially. They've got the top pick in the 2015 draft. We'll break it down at halftime.
3 teams out of the AFC North will be in the playoffs. Baltimore getting in because the Ravens won their game and San Diego lost its game on the road in Kansas City.
I think any fan watching it this season was waiting to see what was going to happen with that division because they've been phenomenal this year.
Penalty flag down. Kaepernick scrambling off to the left side. Picks up
Holding.
Maybe a
number
yard.
77 offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Mike Upati. Whistle for holding. Well, have you heard about the new show Empire? It's coming in January, starring Terrence Howard as a hip-hop mogul. And if you love high drama and amazing music, this is the show for you. Empire premieres Wednesday, January 7th on Fox. David Deal will be dialed in on Empire, no doubt. The way you're dancing around here. Heck, we caught you singing a song earlier this year.
That was the Ram Jam. That's a classic.
It is.
Francisco, the 30-second timeout.
All right, let's take a game break. Check in with Joel Klatt back in Los Angeles.
All right, Tom, David might be dancing, but the folks in Green Bay are not dancing. Even after this touchdown, it could be a costly one. Randall Cobb catches it, 14-0 Packers. But Aaron Rodgers on the field, clutching that cap that he came in with. The left cap was injured. He would later get help to the locker room on a cart. That one's for the North and a first-round bye. Tom, David, and Laura.
All right, Joel, thank you very much. Man, you don't want to see anybody this late, especially guys that are so important. No, to anybody. You don't want to see them get hurt. Green Bay having another great year behind, if not the best, one of the top 2 along with Tom Brady, quarterbacks in the NFL. Miller out of the backfield. That'll pick up a chunk of it. Getting him up to the 27-yard. Let me ask you, I'm going to throw you on the spot, David Deal. And I don't mean to do this to you. But you had to win a game tomorrow as a former Pro Bowl offensive lineman. How hard would it be to pick between Rodgers and Brady?
I mean, you're talking about 2 of the best that have ever played this game. For me, I'd go with Tom Brady for his experience in the postseason, his credentials, and I mean, either way, you're going to win football games. But what you're talking about, I would pick Tom Brady.
Would you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, fortunately for us, when I was a New York Giant, you know, we were able to win the 2 Super Bowls against him.
Yep.
But each and every time, both of those games, there was 2 minutes left, and we were all holding our breath knowing that it was Tom Brady on the other sidelines who still had a chance to win the football game.
Well, here we are. There's 20 seconds left in the first half in Seattle. And the Rams have a pair of takeaways in that game, David Deal. They have an interception of Russell Wilson. Marshawn Lynch fumbled for only the 2nd time all year long. And right now, they would be out of field goal range. We'll see what happens in the last 23 seconds. But the Rams are leading that game 6-0.
You got to love football right now in December. And the last game, so much on the line for both of these football teams. And everybody just wants their opportunity to get into the playoffs because at that point, records do not matter. Scores do not matter from any of those games. And you're playing with your chance to win the Super Bowl. So that's the best thing about this. Records are all out the window. Each and every one of these teams are fighting for their playoff lives. And we're going to see within here 2 hours of which teams are going to be in and who has the opportunity to win the 2015 Super Bowl.
And it's going to carry right into tonight with that game still to divide what will decide the final division champion around the National Football League when Cincinnati goes to rival Pittsburgh. Booming punt by the 4-time Pro Bowler Andy Lee. Ted Ginn Jr. will tiptoe out of bounds. So 58 seconds left. So all the local media, fans waiting for Jim Harbaugh to come out of the locker room. Good York. His family, the ownership of the 49ers, they shook hands and a little pat on the back. Harbaugh generally goes through his rituals of throwing the football around a little bit, getting Kaepernick ready just before the kickoff. And again, Bruce Feldman from Fox reporting last night there has been no comment from the 49ers, no comment from the University of Michigan. How about that throw? Fitzgerald separating himself from Bethea, and he's out to the 46-yard line. Couple of more completions, and they have a chance to tie the game with a field goal.
See Larry Fitzgerald there, him and Michael Floyd working in tandem with one another. Floyd takes the inside. Larry Fitzgerald is able to break outside, and the timing on that throw by Ryan Lindley was perfect. Right out of the break, ball was there the minute that Larry Fitzgerald turned around, and a nice drive here.
Lindley incomplete on first down. Now Catanzaro, the rookie, has been so good this year. He's only missed 4 field goal tries the entire year. And he's hit his longest of the year from 51 yards. They need about another 23 yards on this drive. And they're going to get a big chunk of that right here on a completion to John Brown. Cardinals have 2 timeouts remaining. They'll spend 1 now. By the way, the completion a moment ago, the catch a moment ago by Larry Fitzgerald, it certainly bears mentioning. He has just passed the great Hall of Famer Charlie Joyner for 21st on the NFL's all-time receiving yards list. 12,151. Larry Fitzgerald, the fastest player in the history of football to get to 800 receptions, second only to Randy Moss to reach 900 career receptions. Playing with a sprained knee at around 70% right now. And a lot of talk as to whether or not Fitzgerald will be a Cardinal next year, due to make a pile of money and chew up a huge percentage of the Cardinals' overall team payroll. Wide open is Floyd, and he is shot down by Dole out of, no, they call it a touchdown. He got to the pylon, and it is a touchdown in the final minute of this second quarter to put Arizona in front of 41-yarder.
Michael Floyd again working against Dante Johnson, who's in place of Parrish Cox. They're going after him. Michael Floyd was able to break through, get behind Dante Johnson on that, catch a nice football, and we'll see right here. All of them are getting checked right now in New York. They're all getting reviewed, so we'll see if this is a touchdown.
And they review, as David mentioned, every turnover and every scoring play. Well, you just look, this has been a crazy final 2 minutes of this half, where the Cardinals were in the 15-yard line. They wound up settling for a field goal. They kick off. 49ers have to punt it. And then bang, 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 Lindley has him down the field. And how about it, Mike Pereira? Does this appear to you to be a touchdown for Michael Floyd?
Yeah, it does, Tom. I'll tell you the reason it does. Even though he goes from inbounds to out of bounds, his hand looks to touchdown in the end zone, which immediately means that the goal line will extend outside the pylon. And in that case, he doesn't even have to get the ball over or inside the pylon. Watch the left-hand hit. If that hits inbounds first, the fingertips, then I think it makes it a touchdown. And since they ruled it here, I think it's pretty clear that it stays a touchdown.
Always great to have Mike Pereira.
Oh, sure it is. And Mike will be with you right here on Fox all the way through the postseason, which will begin on Fox next weekend, taking you all the way through the divisional round and the NFC Championship game. Mike's been a busy man this year. College on Saturday, pro on Sunday.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. Touchdown.
Boy, what a huge ending to this first half for Ryan Lindley and the Arizona Cardinals. A field goal to get him within 3, and now a touchdown, and hoping for a point after to give him a 4-point lead. Lindley takes him 75 yards on 4 plays, going 3 out of 4. Point after is good. Michael Floyd, both touchdown receptions in the career of Ryan Lindley, and both of them coming today.
See him going one-on-one against Dante Johnson, who is in for Parrish Cox. Breaks off the inside. Dante Johnson once again has his eyes looking at the quarterback. Protect and get into your coverage. Play your man. Don't get caught with your eyes into the backfield, because once again he was beaten on a deep ball for a touchdown.
And now, granted, we have only played a half of football. They have gone to halftime in Seattle. We are 36 seconds away from halftime here in San Francisco. And take a look at Seattle being shut out in the first half. Rams have missed a couple of big chances. Having said all that, they had an interception of Russell Wilson. They came away with no points. They had a fumble by Marshawn Lynch where they could only manage a second field goal to go up 6-0.
It's always scary when you're playing these division games, because St. Louis would like to do nothing but spoil the Seattle Seahawks season and not let them win the division to get into the playoffs.
How about Ryan Lindley? We mentioned earlier, coming in 228 attempts. His first 3 today to go along with 225 coming in without a touchdown. And now, in his last 22 passes, a pair of scores to Michael Floyd. Holiday will bring it out to the 24-yard line. Well, as always, we'd love to welcome the men and women in uniform serving around the globe. Watching today's broadcast in 175 countries, aboard ships at sea on AFM, the American Forces Network, away from their families during this holiday season and the Christmas season and the New Year. God bless you all. Thank you for all you do, standing strong and proud for the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. Well, Lindley, a couple of touchdown passes. A former Cardinal, Bolden, got the Niners on the board with a 76-yarder. Kaepernick dumps it off to Gore. That'll be a gain of 2. 49ers are out of timeouts, and it looks like they're not going to hurry up to get to the line of scrimmage before the half comes to an end. We'll see if they get one more. Nope, they're not going to do it. So that's the way the first half will end. The 49ers will get the ball to begin the second half. Arizona 10-0 under Bruce Arians when leading at halftime. Is this Jim Harbaugh's last game? Can the Cardinals win the NFC West? Let's go to Los Angeles. Today's excitement is brought to you by Nissan, and today we salute Bob Stenner, the producer of this group at the NFL on Fox for 50 years. Think about that. 50 years ago, Bob Stenner began as a producer with CBS. 21 of those seasons with the legendary broadcast team of Pat Summerall and John Madden. 8 Super Bowls, 11 times, won an Emmy Award. Just an incredible career. And today Bob is in a hospital back in Los Angeles and was unable to be at what was his final game here today. The accomplishments of Bob Stenner, the producer, unrivaled in the history of the National Football League on television, but it is Bob Stenner, the man who has made such an incredible difference in so many lives. please believe me when I tell you. He is a man of incredible faith, great character, a man who always put himself behind the best interests of others, that he touched their lives each and every day. And Bob, if I may humbly say so, for so many around the United States of America and around the world who have had the pleasure to be around you and work with you, we love you, and we are going to miss you. And may God bless you, because it's hard to imagine coming to work each and every weekend looking ahead to next year without Bob Stenner. Nothing but the very best, my friend. And I know that, David Deal, for you in this your first year in TV, I mean, you hit the lottery when you got paired up with Bob Stenner.
I most certainly did, because I've been on some great football teams in my life and great Super Bowl teams, and it all starts with leadership. And for me to be able, my first year out as an analyst now, after playing so many great years in the NFL, I couldn't have gone to a better team with a better leader than Bob Stenner. What I've learned throughout the year, the conversations I've had with him, not only is he an unbelievable producer, but talk about a great person and a great friend that you want to surround yourself with. So thank you very much, Bob, and we all love you, and we're all thankful for everything you've done for us.
If you're wondering about some of the accomplishments, because a lot of the folks on the other side of the camera you really don't get to know. But I mean, whether it's coaches or players all around the league, they all want to know, how is Bob Stenner doing? He's had a rough year from a physical standpoint. He's going to be okay. I don't want anybody to think that he's gravely ill or anything like that. But Laura Oakman, I know you've had the pleasure of being part of our group with Mr. Stenner, leading the charge.
I always tell the story. Bob began this year telling everyone, let's make this the season of kindness. And I think that just sums him up as a man so perfectly. Working with you, Bob, has been the greatest pleasure and privilege of my career. I can't say that enough, and I can't say how blessed I've been to have you in my ear and in my heart for all these years. And Tom, that is the best halftime report I will ever be able to give. Thank you.
Well, you're right about that, Laura. I mean, take a look. You know, we talk about coaches and coaching tree. 50 years as a TV producer. 8 Super Bowls, all the great years with Madden and Summerall. Look at those who have learned from him, though. Our president and COO, our vice president of sports production, 26 current NFL producers and directors. Think about that for a minute now. There's only 14 NFL broadcast teams with a producer and a director. All the college producers and directors. It has just been a legendary run. And Bob Stenner will stay on at Fox. Wisely, the decision made to keep him on board. But, I mean, you think of some of the notable streaks. The great Vin Scully down in Los Angeles with the Dodgers, 63 years. Connie Mack as a baseball manager, 50, the same number as a producer in television for Bob Stenner. He had to go back into the hospital this week. Today was supposed to be his last games. Both teams, in fact, had big write-ups about Bob Stenner in their game notes going into this final week of the year.
Offense, 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
So we selfishly and have taken a few minutes here at halftime and to begin this second half to step away and say thanks to Bob Stenner and thank you for allowing us to do so.
Under.
17-13, Arizona in front with 13:20 to go in the third quarter, just underway here in the second half, and a 1st and 15. Been a quiet day for Gore. The Arizona defense has really shut down any hint of a running game. 50 yards rushing for the 49ers. 19 of them came on one scramble by Colin Kaepernick.
Todd Bowles is doing a nice job. He's going in 3 defensive lineman alignments. Then he'll go 4 defensive. He's blitzing on first down. Todd Bowles is doing whatever he can to disrupt this offense and try to make them as one-dimensional as possible.
Second down, Kaepernick under heavy pressure, just has to get rid of it. And Williams giving chase to Kaepernick, and there's a flag down.
See Matt Shaughnessy ripping off at the edge as one of the fellas. See Okafor on the other side. This Cardinals defense has done a nice
job. There's no intentional grounding on the play. The quarterback was out of the pocket and the ball went beyond the line of scrimmage. Pass interference number 81 offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat second down. Correction, decline that penalty. Third down.
Third and 13 at the 39-yard line.
So third down, and we'll call it 12. No sacks so far, and this has been a sack-happy Arizona defense, 26 of them in the last 7 games. That ball thrown very hard, only about 10 feet away, a screen attempt to Alphonso Smith. So the Niners will punt it. And the second half has been a nightmare for this 49ers team so far this year. They've lost 5 games when they are leading at halftime. They have been outscored by nearly 100 points in the second half of games this season. And of course, only a week ago, they blew the 28-7 halftime advantage against San Diego. Ted Ginn Jr. coming up. This is returnable from the 9-yard line. And a big return for Ted Ginn Jr. Penalty flag, however, back right around where he fielded the ball at the 10-yard line. Another flag down at back of the line of scrimmage. So the officiating crew will huddle up to talk about a pair of penalties on that punt.
I think Jerron Brown is the one that they're going to get with a block in the back. But there's more than one penalty flag on the field right now.
It looks like this is going in Arizona's favor, it appears, because they're asking Bruce Arians what he wants to do.
There are fouls by both teams on the play. Illegal use of hands, hands to the face. Number 57 of the kicking team. During the return, blindside block. Number 22 of the receiving team. Those penalties offset. Replay fourth down.
So we'll do it again. 22 is Tony Jefferson. And this block, I don't know if that was one. Or is that the one? Yep, I bet you that's the one right there. So Lee will punt it again. And Ginn stands back at the 10-yard line. Very short punt this time, and Ginn watches it bounce. Boy, it's funny. Sometimes you get a bad punt and good things happen. He had a good punt a moment ago, but Ginn able to come back with a big return.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. By your next truck, Ford F-150. By Sprint. And by Papa John's, official pizza sponsor of the NFL.
Welcome back. 17-13. Cardinals get the football for the first time here in the second half. Seattle has scored a field goal on its opening possession of the second half. So the Rams with a 6-3 lead there. Ryan Lindley had never thrown a touchdown in his NFL career, and it didn't take long for him to do it today.
He's played very well today. He's done a nice job of managing this game. He's very fortunate that he didn't have the one picked off early by Chris Culliver. They were able to overcome that one and score the next drive. But I've got to say, I've been impressed with the way that he's played today. They've been taking shots downfield. He's been delivering the ball clean when receivers are right out of their break. We'll see how he does now the second half, though.
Going to hand it off on second down. And boy, that's a big tackle right there made by Wilhoit. Well, there was a lot of running room there for Williams. Let's check in downstairs. Halftime update from Laura Oakman.
Tom David's impressed with Ryan Lindley, and so is Bruce Arians. I asked him at halftime, how glad are you have a quick hook? He laughed and said, I'm very glad Ryan deserved this start. That was my mistake. He's done a great job converting third downs. That one pick we just talked about, he said he learned from that. He just wanted 5 more yards. We need to run the ball to set up the play action. Defensively, not very technical, guys. Keep chasing Colin around the field until we get him down on the ground.
Third down and a yard, and they go in shotgun. Taylor in the backfield, and they pitch it to him. And he appeared to get enough for the first down. Needed to get up to the 23.5-yard line. Took a big hit from Bethea, but they will move the chains. This has been an incredible story, this Arizona team. Now, we mentioned they won 10 games a year ago, but they were a distant third-best team in that division. Yeah, the Super Bowl champion Seahawks. The 49ers were a better team than the Cardinals a year ago. A win today, it's a franchise record, 12 of them. They've already clinched their 9th ever postseason berth, their first since 2009. Williams off to the right side, up close to the 30-yard line. I mean, they've had 9 wins this year where they've come from behind. They've had the revolving door due to all the injuries at quarterback. And again, they are hoping, needing to be divisional champions. A win here today and a St. Louis victory up in Seattle, third quarter underway. The Cardinals can be the first seed, they can be the second seed, they can be the 5th seed, or they can be the 6th seed by day's end in the NFC. It's a nice throw right there, completed to Robert Hughes, and again, they will move the chains for the second time on this drive.
I think a lot of credit goes to Steve Keim, too. Steve Keim, over the last 2 seasons, of 53 men on this roster, 40 of them were acquired in the last 2 years. And think about this. Coming into this game, out of the 293 points scored this season, 239 of them were the players that he brought in.
That's getting it done. Williams off the right side up to the 44, and we check in back in Los Angeles. Game break time with Joe Kleck.
All right, Tom, back to Green Bay. Winner gets a bye and the North title, and Detroit has stormed back in this one. It's all tied up after that Calvin Johnson touchdown catch from Matthew Stafford. Hey, number 12, by the way, coming back. He's on the field after that calf injury in the first half. Tom and David.
It's good news. That's good game. That Lions team, boy, they got some kind of defense. That high-octane Packer offense has managed just 1 touchdown. Flag down. Taylor still on his feet.
Offside, number 94 defense. That 5-yard penalty will result in a first down.
Justin Smith in his 14th year out of Missouri, originally began his career in Cincinnati, came to the 49ers in 2008, went to 5 straight Pro Bowls. This year named as an alternate to the Pro Bowl.
He's one of the best defensive linemen of this generation. He's been absolutely unbelievable. Think about this. Since 2001, there's not a single D lineman that has had more tackles than Justin Smith with 884.
Taylor wrapped up by Aaron Lynch on the first down carry. Seattle has just had to settle for a field goal. So a pair of field goals for each team. There are 4.5 minutes to go in a third quarter up in Seattle. The Rams and the Seahawks are tied at 6. We will keep you updated. Very closely monitoring that game for the benefit of our audience watching in the Grand Canyon State today.
First charge,
timeout call.
Arizona.
Why the Cardinals?
Together we will stand, every boy, girl, woman, and a man.
Mark Titleman trying to fill the shoes of one Bob Stenner, and he has done so beautifully for a large chunk of this season. Greg Scopatoni, our director. Second down, and back to the line of scrimmage is Will Hoyt there to make the tackle. So a third down. It's been a good drive for Arizona. First time Cardinals have had the football here in the second half. But now facing third down. It's third down at 6.
Cardinals have done a nice job on third down because they've been able to protect up front and not allow these blitzes to get home. And Ryan Lindley has done a nice job of stretching the field.
Well, that's thrown into triple coverage, and it's intercepted by Commodore to the 32-yard line. That was nowhere near a white jersey.
Clear communication between Brown and Lindley.
There's a penalty flag down. We wait on the flag. You could read the lips of Bruce Arians as Lindley came back saying, "Who are you throwing the ball to?"
During the return, illegal low block, number 36 of the intercepting team. That penalty will be enforced from the end of the play. First down, timeout.
There he is. Where are you throwing it?
Today's game is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving.
Second interception of the afternoon thrown by Ryan Lindley. Arizona with a 17-13 lead. We're in the third quarter. First down handoff to Gore, and that's been the story. Nowhere to run all day long, or at least so far anyway. We go back to the interception.
I mean, just clear miscommunication between Lindley and Brown. Lindley thinks that he's going to break this route off inside. Brown is still running the fly. He got away with it earlier. Culver dropped one here in the first quarter. Fool him once, shame on me. Tried to fool me twice, shame on you. And Culver came up with the big interception.
Kaepernick under center to throw it, and now he'll run it, and I mean, there is nothing but green in front of him. Got a block. Of course, he went for a 90-yard touchdown run last week against San Diego. And that would a gain of 30.
Protection by the offensive line. You see right away that Carson had to break out and cover the receiver. Just opened up clear rushing lanes for him to go through and get a huge first down. I mean, when you think back to last week, his 151 yards were the most ever by a quarterback or any player with 7 or fewer attempts.
First big run of the afternoon for Frank Gore, and he's down to the 30. That'll be a gain of 20. And we check in back in Los Angeles with Kurt Menefee.
Aaron Rodgers had a calf injury, limped off the field, got treatment, limped back on, and threw another touchdown. His second of the day to Randall Cobb. Right now, the Packers lead 21-14 over the Lions, of course. The winner of that game wins the North and the first round bye. Tom and David.
Crowd is standing and cheering. That carry, a gain of 20 by Frank Gore. We talked about what he has meant to this franchise. Many call him the heart and soul of the 49ers since being a third-round draft pick in 2005. And with that carry, he has registered his 8th 1,000-yard rushing season. One of only 10 players in the history of the NFL to rack up 8 or more 1,000-yard rushing seasons. 7 of the 10 are in the Hall of Fame. The only 3 that aren't, Steven Jackson is still playing. Jerome Bettis and LaDainian Tomlinson will be on his way. And on his way down to the 7-yard line, sliding for the first down, is Colin Kaepernick.
Once again, Colin Kaepernick is just able to extend this play with his feet. He's got pressure in his face. He's able to see a clear run lane and takes it.
Not only does Gore go over 1,000 on the carry a moment ago, he also leaps into the top 20 all time. He just passed Warwick Dunn for the most rushing yards in the history of the NFL. And Gore is a free agent at the end of the year. Back to the line of scrimmage there. A lot of talk written about Gore. Will he be back as a 49er next year? Trent Baalke, the general manager of the 49ers, I had a conversation with him about looking ahead to next year, and Gore said, "Oh, does that mean you want me back?" And he said, "Oh yeah, we want you back. But now it's a matter of whether he will be back, because there'll be some teams that are still interested in finding Frank Gore on a roster spot."
He has been the absolute workhorse for this football team, and I think the stat that really sticks out to me that embodies everything about Frank Gore, he's one of only 3 players in the NFL ever to have over 200 carries in 8 consecutive seasons.
Kaepernick directing traffic and just throws it away.
Nice coverage by the Arizona Cardinals here. Bolden taking the inside. They've got him over. See Davis into the back of the end zone. They've got him. Crabtree running the post inside the end zone. They've got him blocked up. I think the biggest thing that they did, though, they did not allow those same rush lanes. They were able to close on Colin Kaepernick and force him to throw it instead of running.
Third down and goal from the 8-yard line. Quick slant, and that is a touchdown to Anquan Bolden. Penalty flag is down. It's right at the line of scrimmage, and it looks like this one might be coming back.
I think it is. I think they're going to get a high-low between
Personal
Marcus
foul,
Martin and
chop block, number 66 offense, 15-yard penalty, repeat third down.
You made the call, David Deal. That's your former number.
Yeah, and that's not a good one that you want to be called then. You're going to see Marcus Martin and then take it low, and Upati hit him high. That same type of blocking is what brought back a touchdown last week to Vernon Davis.
Yep. That was by Frank Gore, if I remember right.
Boone had him held up, and Frank Gore went to protect and hit it. That's the toughest thing as a running back, is because you're flying in there to protect your gap, and at the last minute, an offensive lineman comes to do some extra work and help out, and they hit him with it.
So they take away the touchdown. 3rd and goal from the 24. Cardinals show blitz, only a 4-man rush. They dump it off to Miller. So rather than a go-ahead touchdown, as another penalty flag is down. Boy, this one backs them up. 49ers are saying Arizona.
Hands to the face, number 95 defense. 5-yard penalty, automatic. First down.
Holy mackerel, is that a big penalty against Tommy Kelly. Automatic first down.
Well, this has been a major point of emphasis all season. See Tommy Kelly on the inside interior here. But what they've said right from the get-go, that anytime that hand goes up into the face, regardless of whether you pull it off or not, they're going to throw the flag on that one. It used to be if it touches and you pulled your hand off that it wasn't a foul, but right now that clear hand in the face, the press, you see the head and the neck go back.
Gore keeping those legs churning. I mean, he's going to go the distance today. They're without Carlos Hyde. They're very good rookie running back who had not missed a game all year long and now misses the last 2 of this season with an ankle injury.
Nice block by Mike Upati on that one, leading the way for Frank Gore. have a nice knockout kick out on the pull and give a seam for Frank Gore to run. Same play.
Yep. And that will pick up the first down. First and goal from inside the 5.
Just the patience by Frank Gore. Lets the pull develop, opens it up, boom, just hits it. That is the one thing that Frank Gore is so good at. His ability to take what he sees to his feet instantly.
Gore goes to the sideline in favor of Alphonso Smith. Smith only 6 carries the entire year. Does not have a touchdown. They just do. They didn't. David Deal, how does that happen? I mean, you've got an experienced offensive line. Did they get a timeout before?
First timeout,
Yep.
San Francisco.
You know, we've seen that a lot with this 49er team this year. When we come back, I want to ask David Deal about it. Why is it happening with such frequency? Crowd standing and applauding as they officially announce the 8th 1,000-yard rushing season in the career of Frank Gore. And the man who was standing and applauding right out of the gate was that man, Jim Harbaugh. Taken one way, come back the other way, wide open. Is it a catch? No signal of a touchdown. One official says yes, the other standing right there says no, and now the sign judge is coming up to the head linesman saying, well, we know they're going to take a look at it, so that they will. That's Bruce Miller in the back of the end zone.
See if he drags those feet. 1, 2.
Yep,
that's a touchdown.
Yep, good call.
It's great to see a fullback like Bruce Miller get this touchdown because he is an unsung hero for this offense. They use him in multiple ways. They put him at the wing. They put him in routes. He'll be the lead blocker. He'll wham defensive tackles. He'll trap to the backside. He does everything that you want out of a fullback. A guy that doesn't get recognition all the time. It's great for him to get a touchdown, well deserved.
We got a guy who, going back to his college days, was a defensive end, and they turned into a fullback. So Miller, the second receiving touchdown of the season. 49ers jump in front by 3. Ten plays, 82 yards. Miller the touchdown reception. Frank Gore a big part of that drive. He had a very slow first half, 8 carries for 22 yards, but eight carries, 53 yards so far here in the second half. Up to the 15-yard line as Ted Ginn Jr. lost his footing. Let's check in downstairs with Laura.
You guys were talking about Frank Gore, and I can't tell you how much this team just loves talking about Frank Gore. He won the Eshmont Award this year for the Niners. It's the best example of inspirational and courageous play. I was talking to Vernon Davis and Bruce Miller before the game about him, and I said he's my favorite player to watch on the sidelines because he looks like he's crying all the time. I'm always having to watch him, and they laughed and they go, and I said I can't tell if he's upset or if he's happy, and they said it is just pure passion. That is all he is.
Boy, thank you very much. They try to set up the screen to Marion Grice. Will Hoyt's had a nice day today. Was shaken up earlier. He drops Grice behind the line of scrimmage. And that will be the final play of the third quarter.
He's had a great season stepping in for Navarro Bowman.
Fox NFL Sunday continues. Can the Cardinals win the NFC West? 15 minutes to go. '49ers the only scoring here in the second half. A 20-17 lead as we begin the fourth quarter. Cardinals already in the playoffs, still a fighting chance to win the division. They need a win and need Seattle to lose. Across the middle, flag down. Catch made by Robert Hughes on second down.
Pass interference, number 89 offense. half the distance to the goal. Repeat second down.
Wow, that is on the tight end, John Carlson. First name, we've called his name all day. So we mentioned Cardinals to get a first-round bye. They need a win and a Seahawks loss to get home field advantage throughout the entire NFC playoffs. They need that same combination along with a Green Bay loss. See, Seattle has just scored the first touchdown of that game. Rams were down at the 25-yard line. Sean Hill threw an interception. And the Seahawks take advantage of a takeaway. And how about that? Second down at 19 and a catch made by Floyd to move the chains. And let's check in back in Los Angeles.
Well, Tom, you mentioned the Seahawks scored the first touchdown of the game. It's their first lead of the game. Marshawn Lynch, quick 9-yard run, and they lead it 13-6 in the fourth quarter. You've laid out all the scenarios, so you know what that means.
I mean, we're going to go right up until about midnight Eastern time to know who's in and where everybody's going to be seated in the entire NFL. Looking for the long ball, just beyond the reach of Brown. He had a step on Culliver down the left sideline.
One-on-one at the top of the screen. Gets a free release. You saw the entire Arizona Cardinals bench. They're saying that they wanted a flag for that contact. I think it would have been ticky-tack if they would have thrown it, but once again, they're giving Ryan Lindley the ability to throw the ball and take shots downfield.
One of the big reasons why Arizona's won 11 games is the way they have dominated the opposition in fourth quarters of games this season. And they're going to need that today if they're going to rally from down 3 in the start of this final quarter. They've outscored their opponents 102-64 in the fourth down. And we mentioned all the woes in the second half this entire year for Jim Harbaugh's 49ers.
And if you think about it, the San Francisco 49ers have scored more points in their opening drives of this season than they have in the fourth quarter combined.
It's incredible, isn't it? Play down in 4. It's a big play. Only a 3-man rush. That had no chance from the start. And a flag comes in. Fitzgerald is turned around looking at the official. Tangled up with Leon McFadden. You see Jim Harbaugh saying that ball was over his head. Saying it's an uncatchable pass.
Pass interference. Number 30 defense. Automatic. First down.
See Fitzgerald break 5 yards. Regardless of whether he got hit or not, he was not going to be able to catch that football. I don't agree with that call.
First down, Kerwin Williams. And maybe a yard. Williams had a pretty good day today. 16 carries, 64 yards. That's right at 4 yards per rush. Now, we talked about one of the many incredible stories about this Cardinal team. This guy was a high school quarterback out of Las Vegas. Went on as a running back, had a great career at Utah State, drafted in the 7th round last year by Indianapolis. He was a part of 15 roster moves involving 3 teams in 21 months before landing in Arizona. Great protection. Pocket collapses. And then a catch. Good enough for a first down to Marion Bryce.
Great protection up front by the Arizona Cardinals offensive line. I mean, look at that U pattern that they give them. This offensive line has allowed 1 sack or fewer in 7 of 15 games this season. That's been a complete change from where this Arizona Cardinals offense and offensive line has been in the past. So you've got to give a lot of credit to Harold Goodwin, the offensive coordinator, and the offensive line coach, Larry Zerline.
First down. Lindley lofts it down the sideline with an eye on Hausler. There's great coverage right there by the two-time Pro Bowl strong safety on Antoine Bethea. He is a Pro Bowl alternate. This time a year ago, the 49ers had 8 Pro Bowl players. They have 2 this year, both along their offensive line. They have a number of alternates, including Frank Gore, Smith, Bethea. Incomplete with an eye on Floyd. 3rd down and 10. I mean, now that you're down to the final 11 and a half minutes in the final week of the season, when you're trying to win a division championship, every down, every 3rd down is further magnified.
Right now, the Arizona Cardinals are converting at 50% on 3rd down. Has a lot to do with the blitz pickup and the ability of their offensive line, but in this 4th quarter, you cannot continue to put yourself in 3rd and longs.
Blitz coming. Lindley gets it away, and Brown is dragged down. That is an excellent tackle made by McFadden, and the Cardinals will punt it away with 11:25 to go.
That time, the San Francisco defense was what we call a bat formation. They're in the stand-up, they're moving around, and they're shifting. They blitz Moody and Will Hoyt. They're able to get there, make Lindley get rid of the ball quickly and convert on that down and get the ball back in their offense.
Drew Butler, the injured Zastudil this year at the punter position, and that one will bounce favorably for the Cardinals and be downed just outside the 5-yard line. Long way to go and a lot on the line.
This game is sponsored by the all-new Volkswagen Golf family 2015 Motor Trend Car of the Year. By Visa Checkout, the easier way to pay online. Visa, everywhere you want to be. And by Amazon's new Fire HD, the most powerful tablet starting at $99.
That's where our entire crew has been spending their weekend here in the Bay Area, or at least they should have been. 1 touchdown in the 4th quarter in their last 6 games. Only the Redskins have been more inept offensively in the final quarter over this last month and a half of the season. Seattle has just returned a Sean Hill interception for a touchdown, and the Seahawks now lead by 14 with 10 minutes to go. It was only 5 minutes ago in that game where it was 6-6 and the Rams had the ball at the Seattle 20. Sean Hill interception, Seattle down the field touchdown. Rams get it back, interception, return for touchdown. That's how quickly it changes. Quick slant to Crabtree, and that's good enough for a first down up to the 17-yard line. And let's go back to Los Angeles for a game break.
Well, here's video proof that you weren't kidding. Sean Hill picked off by Bruce Irvin of the Seahawks. Irvin's 2nd interception of the year, his 2nd return for a touchdown. This one 49 yards. Seattle has outscored St. Louis 20-0 so far in the 2nd half. It's 20-6 under 10 minutes left in the ball game. Tom, David, and Laura.
Well, Seattle now really trying to nail down the NFC West crown as Gore still on his feet. And that'll be a gain of 13 on first down for Gore up to the 30. But the defending Super Bowl champions, after hitting a bit of a lull in the middle of the year, trying to nail down home field advantage.
Bruce Miller does a nice job of setting the edge, but Mike Upati pulls around, seals it at the point of attack to give Frank Gore a 2-way go. Takes it outside, gets another block by Anquan Bolden. Gets a nice first down.
Well, they have stopped the clock to take a look at Mike Upati, so we'll step out as well. Well, up here in the booth with us, Tom Barbary and Scott Snyder. Mike Upati appears to be okay, just named to his 3rd consecutive Pro Bowl. 49ers have 2 offensive linemen headed to the Pro Bowl. And Kaepernick is dropped all the way back to the 14-yard line. A little extra pushing and shoving going on. Sam Acho is back there, and he had company in hot pursuit.
We just
of
called
Colin
that
Kaepernick.
a fire. Sam Acho and Okafor on the other side, just screaming upfield. They're not able to block. Okafor is completely unblocked. There's nowhere for Kaepernick to go on that one, and he has to take a sack.
That is a 15-yard loss. And we're just starting to talk about 2 offensive linemen on this 49er team are going to the Pro Bowl. And Colin Kaepernick has been sacked 52 times. And that's going to be a penalty.
Ball starts.
On Anthony Davis.
Number 76, offense. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
Now, David Deal, you played offensive line and started every year of your entire career with the New York Giants, won a couple of Super Bowls, went to the Pro Bowl. Can you blame linemen all the time for a large number of quarterback sacks?
I mean, to an extent, because think of the fact Anthony Davis was hurt. They had Jonathan Martin out there at right tackle who struggled. There was a time where Boone wasn't playing. He was holding out before he came back.
Yep.
That definitely affected things. But at the same time, a lot of it has to go to Colin Kaepernick, too. He had to get rid of the football a lot quicker than he has on his reads and his diagnosing and going through his progression, and has taken some sacks that were unneeded. That has led to 52 sacks, which is, when you think about this team and the San Francisco 49ers offensive line, I mean, they're the reason why they've had success that they've had throughout these last 3 years.
Staley has been to 4 straight Pro Bowls now. Upati 3 in a row. Alex Boone, an alternate to the Pro Bowl this year, an outstanding guard. 3rd and 29. They need to get all the way to the 39-yard line to convert. They're just going to hand it off. Doro pick up a good chunk of yardage, but well short of the first down. So here we are now with 7:43 to go. Now, we mentioned that Seattle owns a 20-6 lead. Although don't look now. St. Louis has the ball down at the Seattle 15-yard line. If they can punch it in, they could pull within 7. And there's still 8 minutes to go in that game. These Cardinals needing a win and a Seattle loss to be crowned NFC West champions. Lead a punt it away. Booming punt. But a lot of room to return for Ted Ginn Jr. And he's met immediately by Dahl right at the 30-yard line. Emotions riding high. High stakes.
This game is sponsored by American Sniper from Warner Brothers Pictures. Now playing in select theaters everywhere January 16th.
20-17, just under 7 minutes to go. 49ers in front. Rams have the ball at the Seattle 6 with 7 minutes to go, trailing by 14. Lindley looking down the field. Perfectly thrown ball right over the linebacker's Scuda in front of the defender Johnson. And the catch made by Floyd. Not a bad day overall for Lindley. Not bad at all.
No, I mean, you think back the 2 interceptions, obviously 2 bad throws that he wished that he could take back, but you got to give him a lot of credit for the way that he's played today, the confidence that he's brought. And even though those adverse times have happened, he's bounced back from him, and he hasn't let it affect the way that he's performed.
Ball up to the 43-yard line, and Lindley again to throw it. Great protection. And he's throwing this one down the field and broken up. Really broken up by Floyd. Because that could have been another interception today for Color.
Lindley airs it out, but it's inside, and Floyd does a nice job of getting his left hand in there to be able to knock that one down. And Culliver would have had another interception today.
'49ers playing without Parrish Cox, starter at corner. His primary backup, Tremaine Brock, out with an injury. Starting free safety Eric Reed out with an injury. All in the 49ers secondary. Dropped pass. Ooh, that could turn out to be a big one for Brown. That was enough for a first down.
It's just a drop. John Brown would have the first down here with this catch. Goes to turn upfield and doesn't secure the football. Very nice play by Dante Johnson to be able to knock that ball out when he doesn't, but that should be a short catch by John Brown. Look at him, tuck it, and keep the first down.
Benny Cunningham of the Rams has fumbled the ball at the Seattle 1-yard line. Seattle has the ball, and you can pretty much start thinking about a Seattle win. Crossing pattern, catch made short of the first down on 3rd and 10. So the big drop by Brown forces Arizona to punt with 6 minutes to go.
Nice job by Nick Moody. He didn't get home and he didn't get a sack, but he pressed Hughes right into the feet of Lindley there, so he could barely see and had to throw that one out of there.
Rookie Bruce Ellington stands back at the 10-yard line. We'll talk so much about Arizona and Seattle. Fair catch by Ellington, but for Jim Harbaugh, are we down to the final 5.5 minutes of his reign in San Francisco? (20-17), 49ers in front of the Arizona Cardinals. Fox College Football insider Bruce Feldman, who was a classmate of Jim Harbaugh, Palo Alto High School. That's after the Harbaugh family had moved from Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, to the Bay Area when Jim was wrapping up his final year of high school. Reported that Jim Harbaugh is on his way to Michigan. We remind you, Saturday, the UFC returns to Fox for UFC 182 prelims. 7 Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. You know, and Jim Harbaugh has been such a focal point of this franchise. Came over from Stanford, and let's not forget, I mean, outside of a year here or a year there, with Steve Mariucci after the great run of Bill Walsh and George Seifert, there were a lot of dark days here with the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, some terrible football teams. And Jim Harbaugh comes along. Of course, he was a player and a pretty good one for a number of years. For his father, an unpaid assistant in Western Kentucky, first pro job across the bay. Head coach at USD. Took Stanford to the BCS. Named 49ers coach in 2011. First year, NFC Championship game. Second year, NFC Championship game, trip to the Super Bowl. Third year, NFC Championship game. And depending on the outcome today, as there's a perfectly thrown ball on 3rd down, lofted in there to Brandon Lloyd to move the chains.
Just a beautiful throw by Colin Kaepernick to throw that one over Gerard Powers' head to where only Brandon Lloyd could catch that one. And the toe tap, that's something Brandon Lloyd is known for, his catches at the sidelines, its ability to drag those feet in. And first catch of the day, but it was a big one.
Less than 5 minutes to go. First down, and Gore dropped for a 4-yard loss. Let's check in downstairs, furthering this conversation about Jim Harbaugh. How about it, Laura?
Tom, I talked to Jed York before the game about the report that Jim Harbaugh is going to Michigan. He said, I don't know about it. We haven't talked about that. We're going to get together to talk tonight or tomorrow morning. He's a great coach. I have great respect for what he did here, what he accomplished. I hope to have a respectful conversation about what we both want. And no matter what happens, I hope we both lead with our heads held high.
Well, it was very evident in our conversation 2 days ago with Jim Harbaugh that it is hard to imagine that if indeed this comes to an end, that it is going to come to an end without some hurt feelings. And there's Gore. First down and run out of bounds right at midfield with 3:58 to go.
Starts with Vernon Davis. He hits and works to the next level. Then Bruce Miller, then Mike Upati. Just clear open lanes for Frank Gore. And this is the offensive line, and this is the offense of the San Francisco 49ers that's been missing. Pulling, smash mouth, hitting people, and just bringing it to them. That's something that they did last week to get the ground game going. And it's very important for them to continue this with 4 minutes left in this game. Control the time of possession, control the clock, and control the line of scrimmage.
Well, we have to call a timeout again. Play clock winding down. Without, wearing this whole thing out, in our conversation with Jim Harbaugh, the one thing that he wouldn't tell us what he's doing, and he's maintained that stance all along. His famous quote is, what will happen, what won't happen, won't happen. But he went on and on about, who is the unnamed source or sources where stories continue to be leaked out to some of the writers here that cover the team on a regular basis, because Harbaugh has not talked at all about this situation, at least publicly, and feels like somehow, somewhere, somebody has been leaking information, if you will, from the other side of this.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that he said, is that they're only getting one side of it. But, I mean, that's the way that the media plays this, and that's the way that, with social media and with Twitter and with everything going on, any type of bit of information goes from one person and it just spreads, and it's huge. So, I mean, really to sit here and say that, this is the first time that we've heard an unnamed source or any of this stuff when it comes to controversy and when it comes to coaches, no, but it's just amazing the fact that this is all going on during a time with a coach that has had so much success here.
It really, really is. Well, we brought up earlier how you can make an argument that they're 2 or 3 plays away from having won a couple of Super Bowls. We remember the incomplete pass to Michael Crabtree on 4th down, ball on the 5-yard line. They had to turn the ball over on downs, and then last year in the corner of the end zone again to Crabtree, incomplete. The great play by Richard Sherman, denying a game-winning touchdown. The fan base seems to have sided with Harbaugh. And you listen to the radio talk shows and so on and so forth. And some have suggested that, as Gore picks up the first down and he's down to the 32, that Harbaugh is going to be painted or portrayed as a sympathetic figure in all this. Now, look, as my old friend Harry Carey used to say, there's 3 sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth. I don't think there should be any sympathy felt for anybody in this whole operation. There are going to be people walking away with a lot of money and maybe a little bit of hurt feeling.
I think the biggest thing that started all this between the owner and the head coach is the fact of last season having the season that they had, looking for an extension, and then hear talks about them trading him possibly to Cleveland and not having anything come about it. I think that was the tipping point where everything went to the wayside, and then it was clear that there was, not the relationship that you need to have between a head coach, the GM, and the owner.
Well, time to get an update on what's going on in Seattle. We check in with Kurt Menefee.
As you mentioned earlier, St. Louis had a chance to pull to within a touchdown, but right at the goal line, inches away, Benny Cunningham stripped by Earl Thomas. Turnover gives Seattle the ball. They lead it 20-6 with 2 minutes left to go. And again, if Seattle wins, they win the West and the #1 seed in the NFC. Tom and David.
Yeah, they're at the 2-minute warning, and that's a 14-point lead. You can pretty much stick a fork in the NFC West. So, you know, right now, Green Bay is leading Detroit by 2 touchdowns. Green Bay wins that game. They are the divisional champion, and the 2 wild card teams, if it comes to this, if Seattle wins and if Green Bay wins, first down, nowhere to run. If Green Bay wins, they would be the #2 seed in the NFC playoffs. Seattle the #1 seed overall in the NFC. So that would mean the Detroit Lions would go to Dallas for a game next weekend. Bruce Arians and the Arizona Cardinals, with more than likely Ryan Lindley as their quarterback, not Drew Stanton, would play at Carolina. Carolina has absolutely humiliated the Atlanta Falcons. In a winner advances, a loser is done. That is a final. Carolina officially the NFC South champion with a thumping over Atlanta in Atlanta, 34-3.
Just amazing, because that is not the outcome of this football game that I thought. Not to mention, the loser of that game is going to have a top 10 draft pick. I mean, think about that.
I know.
You either win the division or you're going to have a top 10 draft pick. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Well, now 3rd down and 11. If they're forced to kick a field goal from here, it would be right around a 54-yard attempt. Maybe 53-yard attempt. But it is only 3rd down. And they don't even get the playoff. I started to ask you earlier, David.
Number 66 offense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
How does that happen? In a huddle when you're not getting plays off in time. Now, the center started early, but they weren't going to get it off anyway.
And then this one, you can't call the offensive lineman on that one, because he's waiting to get the tap for the quarterback to give the signal that they're ready to go. So the guard's going to tap the center to snap the ball, but it took way too much time on that one to get that penalty and to have this happen. I mean, I know you were trying to get the clock to run down, but it's a 3rd and 16. You need to try getting the first down here.
That penalty may take them out of field goal range. Incomplete. No penalty flag. So with that penalty, we said it would be about a 53-yard attempt, and now they will not even attempt a field goal after the 5-yarder would make it closer to a 60-yard field goal try. Or 57, 58, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that's a big difference, man, with 2 minutes left in the game between a field goal to tie it as opposed to kicking a field goal here, forcing Arizona then to score a touchdown to win.
It's a huge difference.
End over end and into the end zone. 2-minute warning. Arizona looks like at this point playing for a 5 seed rather than a 6 seed. Well, they may not win the NFC West, but they have a chance to learn a little something about Ryan Lindley right here. Down by 3, 2 minutes to go. A win today. And the Cardinals would set a franchise record with 12 victories in a season. And Lindley is sacked back at the 10-yard line. We welcome those of you who have been watching Seattle wrap up the #1 overall seed in the NFC, nailing down the NFC West with a win over the St. Louis Rams. And that is intercepted by Craig Dahl. 3rd interception of the game, thrown by Ryan Lindley.
Once again, Ryan Lindley is telegraphing his throws. He doesn't do anything to off-look his receiver, make the safeties look to another side, but he is clearly staring straight at his receiver. This is his third interception of the day, and every single one of them have been from him eyeing down his receiver.
All the players coming off the field, and before the 49er offense came on the field, everybody hugging Jim Harbaugh. They just gave him that football standing over there on the sideline. That was a ball that Dahl intercepted and handed the ball to Jim Harbaugh. And when you see things like this, it makes you wonder if Harbaugh has not already told his team that this might be it. That is straight speculation. But this doesn't look like a guy who's just at the end of a fourth season who's coming back for his fifth season, does it?
No, it does not. I mean, Craig Dahl to walk over there to give him the football like that, the way that this whole team has really rallied around him this week and in support of Jim Harbaugh to say we need to win this last one, not only for our pride but for our coach. That means a lot to him, and I know that he may be a coach that doesn't always show the emotion that you want, but to have this happen for this coach, I'm sure it means so much to him.
Well, if he's off to his alma mater in Ann Arbor, Michigan, he has a big job ahead of him. It's one of the great college football programs in the country, but they have been down. His final game will be a victorious game. For the Cardinals, they'll march on to the NFC playoffs. We wish them well beginning next weekend. Bruce Arians, a big hug for Jim Harbaugh. And perhaps, we don't know for sure, but perhaps leaving this field for the final time after a dynamite 4-year run as head coach of the San Francisco 49ers.